to this week's Keep the Change podcast episode. We have a special episode for you today. We have our GOAT episode because this is episode number 23. So thank you all for joining us on this journey. There it is, baby. And some would argue that he is the GOAT. And some, according to Charles Barkley, he'd slap you if he said that LeBron was the GOAT right now. But nonetheless, we have GOATs from pretty much all sports. So
Swings his hands the same way as he does a golf club. You'd have plenty of time to dip and dodge there with the three different pauses and hesitations before he
right.
finishes.
um, that's hilarious. So we typed into ChatGPT, which is ChatGPT could go down as probably the GOAT of just super technology. So why not? We typed into ChatGPT, we got the list of top 50 greatest athletes of all time. So we're going to work through the list. There's some good names on here. There's some shocking names on here. And there's some people that aren't even on here at all that I would consider. So as we go through, we'll give you what the number is, and then we'll kind of talk about what other GOATs we think are in there. But this episode is dedicated to all the greatest athletes of all time. And I think even if we don't get to talk about you, I think there's just so many. I think to even just put it into like a top 50 is wild. I know me and you were kind of talking earlier, like looking at some of the people on the list. Like there's been so many like multiple sport athletes that aren't even on this list. That's like, how do you judge that? So just honestly looking through it just made me realize like how thankful I am for sports. Like I just think it's such a great thing to be able to have, just like pure escapism. Like you watch a game and you're just forgetting about everything. Like going to a game, it's just I love everything about it. So
I don't I would do. I don't think I would have a life without sports. As sad as that sounds, like from being a kid, growing up playing any sport that I could year round, just wanting to do something, be competitive, playing some type of game. To now as an adult, like I don't watch movies. Very few TV shows I'll ever watch. I don't watch the news. There's never anything good there. Like all I want to do is watch sports.
yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. There could be it could be a cricket game going on in India at 4 a.m. But if I'm awake and I can't sleep and there's two teams competing about something, man, I'm in. Let's watch it. Let's figure it out. I want to see who's a competitor. I just want to see some action.
You know what's really good on that, and that's it's been recent, is especially like in hotels, like when I'm traveling, late at night like that, cornhole on like ESPN 8 or what, or like whatever that ESPN just cornhole, the cornhole league. Those I'd get so excited. Or darts, if you ever just watch darts,
Oh man,
dude,
darts and bowling might have some of the most lit crowds that there are. They get hyped up real quick.
dude,
It's hilarious
epic.
watching on TV. I love it.
Absolutely epic. Um All right, so we asked ChatGPT, what does it think the top 50 greatest athletes of all time? Now, I thought this was funny. It started its answer as an AI language model. I do not have personal opinions or beliefs. However, here are some of the greatest athletes of all time based on their achievements and impact on their respective sports. So it's going off of achievements and the impact that they had on their respective sports. So I like those categories. I think there's so many different things you can go, because I know a lot of people go championships, a lot of people go statistics. This was a pretty like I think all the people that are on this list, if you were to say that sport, they are going to be one of the top 5 people that you can list in that sport. So that I think goes a long way with saying if you're an athlete, greatest athlete of all time, if you can say the sport and that person's name gets triggered, I think you've earned your place on one of the greatest athletes of all time. So shocking here, but the number one pick, Michael Jordan. ChatGPT has put Michael Jordan as the greatest athlete of all time. Now, I don't disagree. I don't know necessarily if I agree, but what do you think about Michael Jordan claiming the number one spot, not just in basketball, but of all sports? What's
Yeah,
your
man,
thoughts?
like we had talked about a little bit earlier. I always play. I was a team sport guy. I always played team sports, but to me, it's hard to pick a team sport athlete as the greatest athlete of all time over an individual sport because you always have that team there to back you up, to help you up, to pick you up in the team sport. Where when if you're not at your greatest, you're not doing your best, you still can have some melt. There's games that the Bulls wouldn't have won just based on MJ's performance if he didn't have some help. I'm not saying he isn't, one of the best athletes of all time, one of the best basketball players of all time, but an individual sport athlete, Muhammad Ali, Michael Phelps, it's all 100% on you. Usain Bolt, like there's nobody else that's involved. You have to do it all by yourself every time. So that's one of the things for me that I mean, it's not like you can argue MJ out of the top, what, 10, maybe 20 max, but it's all just subjective.
Yeah, I think that's really bold. I mean, I mean, there's big debates on if he's the greatest of all time in basketball, and ChatGPT just pretty much says no, not only basketball, he's the greatest athlete of all time. Um, but I would say in terms of like achievements plus impact on their respective sport. I mean, I just got done watching the movie Air. I mean, the impact that this man has had is going to be on the basketball court, right? I mean,
The
everyone recognizes yeah, like that logo. You want to be like Mike. Like, I think in terms of like impact on how many people look to that person as a role model or like try to do what their work ethic to become, and not just basketball, but like most his story of like getting cut and persevering and be kind of being the underdog until he performed in the NBA. Like his story carries weight across multiple sports, so I could see why he got the number one pick there. But I do think that's bold. I do think it's bold. Number two, this one, I think he's definitely up there. Uh, Again, we talk about impact on the sport. Pretty much revolutionized the sport of boxing, and they picked Muhammad Ali. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to argue him anywhere out of the top five. Guy completely changed the sport of boxing. He's one of the most popular names in the world. Or, I mean, the best pound for pound fighter ever. Yeah, I like Ali up there.
I mean, record 61 total fights, 56 wins, 5 losses. I mean, 61 fights. I didn't know it was that high. 61 fights.
A lot of fights.
I mean, I mean, UFC, Khabib Nurmagomedov, one of the hands down, definitely up there, going to be is a Hall of Famer, great fighter. I think his record, he only had like 29, 28 or 29 wins. Like the fact that this man fought 61 times in boxing, there's clearly why he had so many health issues afterwards. Um, but to only lose 5 times in 61 fights, I mean, and 37 knockouts. I mean, we're talking about a gold medalist in the Olympic Games. Like, I mean, and fighting's no joke of a sport. Boxing. I mean, that's very brutal sport. So
Oh, yeah.
the fact
Takes
that
ridiculous
you
endurance.
yeah, what he did, and kind of too, like, just in a time and like where we were at, like in our country, and like the role model that he played, again, outside of the ring, carried over into being able to motivate and help people outside of the ring, and like inspire and motivate. I think that carries a lot of weight. Um, Definitely. I mean, definitely one of the greats, and like such a physically fit person too, right? Like the athleticism that it takes to put on that, and he was in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, he wasn't a small dude.
No, like what is that? That's actually, let's see, what was his height and weight? That's a good question. 6'3".
Yeah,
6'3". That's a pretty tall person.
yeah.
Um, and moved like a butterfly, stung like a bee. Um, all right. This one is a cool one. I like this one for number 3. Uh, this is going to the track and field. Now, there has been multiple track and field athletes that I think could have gotten the nod higher than this one, but the fact that it decided to pick this one, and again, I think this has a lot to do with impact off the field. Usain Bolt, track and field. What's your thoughts on that one?
Man, he's a superstar. Like the dude just killed it. I think that's same thing you said. One of the big things. Yeah, he's a record setter, world record holder, but he has a charisma about him, and he did so well at play, pumping up the crowd and playing into it, and his commercials, and that's a big part of it. Just the impact he had people all over doing his little pose that he did at the end of races. You're seeing it in every sport that you were watching at the time. Yeah, I think that from this aspect that they're looking at from overall total impact, he's got to be up there.
That's a good point you bring up. Like, yeah, like soccer players I know, and they score goals. We're doing the same celebrations that Usain Bolt. So I mean, that's multi-sport impact that you're having in terms of culture.
All football players doing it after they were scoring touchdowns, like this all the way across the board.
That's a really good. That's I didn't I wasn't even thinking about that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think just in terms of like you think of track and field, like I can't tell you like Jesse Owens, I can tell you like, but I can't tell you like top American sprinters. But when I think of like running in the Olympics, I mean Michael Phelps, Usain Bolt, those guys come to the top of
Oh,
my, yeah, right? Like they're the ones that come to the top of my head.
and Michael Johnson was the U.S.
Michael
sprinter.
Johnson, that yep, it's okay. Yep, that's a good one.
Was he the one that had the gold shoes that he took off and sprayed off with the fire extinguisher? I can't remember if that. I think that might have been him, but there was him, and there was another really good U.S. Sprinter at that time, but I can't remember his name, so that's why he's not on the list.
Yes, Michael Johnson, gold shoes.
Yep, that dude could
That's
fly. He was
he could.
Usain Bolt before Usain Bolt and social media and
So I think that's another thing, right? Like Usain Bolt, I think was at a time in which like capturing and sharing of like sport footage was really popular. So I think that really create helped him create the impact that he had. And you think like you think though that could be an argument for a lot of these guys on the list. Like if they were in this time doing the things they be more popular now too? Like think
yeah,
like he's on the list here soon, but like, Babe Ruth hits a home run. You had to read about it in the newspaper like maybe like a month later or whatever.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Or as opposed to watch, he's out there striking out 10 guys and hit 2 home runs while smoking 6 heaters and eating 3 hot dogs, drinking 2 beers in the dugout throughout the game. Like,
right. So
the guy's a freaking legend at this. I mean, he already is a legend, but
yeah,
like, God, do you imagine Babe Ruth in today's world?
just and how, I mean,
It'd be like John Daly, but in
oh,
baseball.
that's a good comparison. The John Daly of baseball, but way more accolades in baseball than John Daly
Yeah,
has in. But still, uh, played baseball like John Daly played golf. That's a good reference right there. All right, number 4 is our first female on the board, and that is Serena Williams for tennis. I like this one. I mean, especially for like I think women athletes, for like in a time where like really needed like someone to like look up to. And I think a lot of female athletes, like again, same thing with like Michael Jordan, like the story, right? Like come from nothing, work hard. I think the impact has gone from a simple sport like tennis has carried over to people, to female athletes and even male athletes. I think a lot of people find motivation and inspiration through those stories. So what do you think about this one?
I think you can make an argument for Serena as possibly being number one on the list, just based off all of her accomplishments, the longevity, and the impact she had on her individual sport. I mean,
And same thing, still having it, right? Like still
yeah,
having an impact on it.
still competing at a high level at this point. How long has she been playing for now? Has that got to be 20 plus years?
Fact checking.
But between her and her sister, I mean, that was, you had the two best at a sport come from the same household at the same time, competing in all the top tournaments against each other. That was a pretty special thing to see.
She was ranked world number one for 319 weeks.
Not 319 days, 319 weeks.
23 Grand Slam titles. My God. Wow. Prize money, $94 million in prize money. 73 career titles. Oh my God. Check out this record. 858 to 156. She won 84% of the time.
Man.
I'm still trying to figure out when she I mean, I don't even know how it says here 94 is when she started, so I'm guessing that was when she was little, and she played until 2022. So
Yeah.
that's a lifetime.
Almost 30 years.
But yeah, I mean, again, I just all right. You say the word tennis, like Serena Williams is one of the first things that pops, and it's not even a male athlete that I can tell you first, and I can't tell you like maybe one other one, like Sharapova, I think is one. I'm am I lying there? But again, talk about impact, right? Like making a sport like tennis so popular, and people, when you say a sport, your face is the first thing that pops up into most people's heads. Like that shows your greatness. Um all right. I like here we haven't had any repeat sports yet. And we're going to keep on to number 5, soccer. Pele. Pele is going on the list for number 5. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I'm not honestly a huge soccer person, but anybody I was friends with that did play soccer or was big into soccer always would talk about Pele and talk about him being the greatest soccer player of all time. And now when you hear anybody else that's one of the current greats, they like use Pele as the level to compare him to. So if you're the standard, if you're the bar set in your sport, yeah, I think you belong on that list.
Yeah, I think right. That's if people are comparing you to other, until they say the words like better than, like you've earned that top spot. Yeah, I mean, again, same thing we've been saying about a lot of these guys, being able to say the sport and have the name pop up into your head. And again, all the accomplishments that he had, uh, I think that's great. I think there's some guys that are going to be coming up on this list that I could see in that spot. Um, but again, going back to like the Usain Bolt thing. So I think what brought Usain Bolt so much popularity, I think if Pele would have been playing at a time like now, like how much more popular could have Pele been? So the fact that he's there without any of that, that just shows kind of again how great he is. And again, super athletic soccer is a very physically demanding sport, and he was the best to do it. So I like that. That's a cool one at 5. Number 6, we're going to baseball, and now this one, Babe Ruth. Now I again, I think it's just because everyone can tell you Babe Ruth, and I think you can thank Sandlot a lot for that. But I think there's like a couple guys on this list, or I think like he's not, I don't even know if he's, let me just real quick. I don't even know if he's on the list, but like I just got, and maybe it's just because I got done watching Man of the Arena, but in terms of like baseball, I'm also looking, there's not very many baseball players on here. Uh, or not Man of the Arena, the captain. Derek Jeter. I thought Derek Jeter was one of the greatest of all time in baseball. And maybe I'm wrong there. But yeah, what do you think about Babe Ruth? Baby Ruth.
Not overrated. I mean, from all the stories, that's all it is. Because I mean, they didn't have really video back then. You know, games weren't televised. You know, I never really got to see, but all the stories that you hear, Babe Ruth was like the epitome of like the best baseball player you could ever want to be. Dude just hit bombs, went out there and struck people out. It's terrible, but you know, a lot of baseball players don't really like to run to, you know, a lot of physical fitness or extra PT. It's changed nowadays. That's why, you know, look at these guys now, they're all jacked without the steroids. But the dude just dropped bombs, jogged around the bases, ate hot dogs, drank beer, and smoked cigarettes in the dugout.
And cursed a whole city for 84 years.
He did do that.
That's even
That's
crazier.
something in itself right there. That's got to get you bonus points.
Like, yeah, the fact that you're a ghost and you're still defeating teams like that. All right, some stats for him. 342 batting average, pretty good. 2,800 hits, 714 home runs with a back in the day technology. I mean, again, it's all still wooden bat, but like that's crazy. Had a 2.28 earned run average. I mean,
Also fucking crazy.
that's nuts.
Yeah, like that's to have that low of an ERA and that high of a batting average are both absurd to do either one of them, let alone to have the same person do both of them. Like it's next to impossible.
Dude,
So he's
that's
a guy that I think, you know, 10 years from now will probably be on this list.
who?
Shohei Ohtani.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, they're already calling him.
If he can stay healthy and he can keep it up, man, he's got it.
I'm trying
Dude's
to
got a
see.
great pitcher. He rakes. He does well on the outfield. He runs the bases well. Like he's the best all around baseball player I've personally seen in my life.
7-time World Series champ.
That's a big deal too.
He went 1915, 1916, 1918, 1923, 27, 28, and 32. This dude,
The 20s would have been worse than the 90s growing up hating the Yankees.
oh yeah. Um crazy. I love it. And I think again, the way he did it, the fact that he was doing it while guzzling down glizzies and ripping darts. All right, Babe Ruth, congrats, buddy. You broke the top 10. Number 7, I thought this person would be a little bit higher on the list. But I think in terms of the biggest impact on their sport, uh, I think when everyone says this sport, the first name anyone's thinking of is this person, and that is golf, and that is Mr. Tiger Woods. I think in terms of like highest, if you were to rank this just off of the impact of their sports, Tiger Woods has to be number one. But he's still in the top 10, rounding off number 7 with some great ones in front of him. What's your thoughts on Tiger Woods?
I feel like the off the field stuff hurt Tiger. Obviously, I mean that's you know no duh, but
See, Babe
without
Ruth's lucky there was no social media
that,
back then.
if that stuff doesn't go down, if he doesn't have that injury, he's probably sitting at number one on this list. But hey, things happen. Still a great athlete. still like, yeah, 95% of people, he's going to be the first golfer that they name.
Yeah.
And,
And look,
and he,
there we go. I got Michael Jordan and Tiger right there. 2 top teners.
he made
Um,
golf
oh, and Muhammad Ali, 3 top teners. Look at that.
and
Yeah,
John Daly.
John Daly,
It's
not on the
golfing.
list, but could be. But we did make a reference. He is the Babe Ruth of golf.
If we're talking pants of all time, John Daly's got to be up there somewhere on that list.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Yeah, I think you're right. I think probably the off the course stuff kind of tarnished Woods a little bit, but I mean, I feel like everyone's past it now. I mean, again, this you say the word golf, people. I mean, I'm not over here saying, "Oh man, I wish I played golf like Rory. Oh, I wish I hit a shot like Jordan. Oh man, even Phil. I think Phil's great, but no one's ever like, oh, I want to play like you want to play like Tiger Woods when it comes to golf, right? You want to dress like him. I mean, he's the fact that anytime anyone wears a red shirt on the golf course, like the dude has. And again, who would even be watching golf? Or, I mean, the fact that we're more excited to watch him come back on 1 foot to tune in
Yeah,
than,
people watching Fred just to see how he could do, see if he's back.
or we'd rather see Michael Block do well. That's what gets us excited about golf. You know, so I think in terms of impact, the guys, yeah, definitely there. All right, number 8, another tennis player. So this is our first double up, and this was going male, and we're going with Roger Federer. Roger Federer. I think that's pretty high up on the list, especially like there's some other ones like I'm looking at that I'm surprised aren't higher. But in terms of dominance in the sport, dude's been pretty dominant. But what do you think?
Great tennis player, won a lot, did it for a long time, but I don't know. I think it's a high. I think that's pretty high for him.
Yeah, I want to. I mean, again, I'm just, and I'm also skating ahead, looking at some of the other names on here, and I think there's some other people that could have been up there higher than him.
Yeah. Even I feel like Nadal had just as big, if not a bigger impact on men's tennis with the tie-up headbands. He was the first one to make those popular back in the day. Roddick was good there for a while. I don't know. I'm not taking anything away from Federer. He was great. He won a lot.
No, I think he's in the top 50. I just don't know if number 8 was the spot. And again, I think
That's
this
what I
is
said. I think that's a reach.
yeah, this one might be the first one that I've disagreed with too. So, but nonetheless, he is there, and congrats to you, Chad GPT. Thinks you are in the top 10, buddy. Next up, now see, this is where I feel like he should be higher than Roger Federer on this. Just again, talk about impact. When you say the word swimming, I mean, you are the face of swimming in the Olympics, and that is Michael Phelps. And again, yeah, right. Just one mistake.
Poking and stroking, baby.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on that one?
But yeah, I mean, just that picture of him with all the gold medals around, like it's just the dude killed it. And the Olympics aren't something, you only got every 4 years. So it's not like you get a chance to go win that every single year. But yeah, Phelps is definitely the most known, has the most accolades of any swimmer. When you talk about men's swimming, it's Michael Phelps.
100%. Yep. I mean, I can't even give you another swimmer's name right now. Besides, like Ryan Lochte. Yeah, exactly. I can tell you about him, but that's about it. All right. So okay, and now another one again. Not taking away from Federer, but this first multi-sport athlete to come up and talk about a guy who, I mean, I was just looking up some of his stats. I mean, this dude was a gold medalist, football player, baseball player, first Native American to win a gold medal for the United States. Jim Thorpe.
Yeah. How is he not number one?
Now that's what our kind of like we were saying, like we say athlete of all time, like it doesn't even list us. I love this one is they don't even list a sport for him. It just says multi-sport athlete. I feel like if you're saying greatest athletes of all time, the multi-sport athletes have to be higher up. I think it's just he's not as well recognized, right? On
Yeah.
the input, but
It was a
is
different
that
era.
his problem? That is his fault because he was just doing so much in so many sports. So I definitely think he should be in the top 10. I agree with that being there. I think it could be a little higher, especially when I look back at some more of his accolades. But yeah, what's your thoughts on that one?
And I really think Thorpe should be number one on the list just due to what we were talking about. He wasn't just great at one sport, he was great at every freaking sport that he played, and he played several sports at the highest level possible and dominated all of
Yeah,
them. And
I
go
agree.
on a little side tangent here on some guys that aren't on the list that should be, in my opinion. Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson has
Yes,
got to be one of the 50 greatest athletes of all time. Did
yes, and
not see him on that list. Sorry if I just killed one and I just read it, missed
nope.
over it.
Spoiler alert: he is not even on the list of top 50. Everybody.
And could have been you know, all-star baseball player if you wanted to focus on that. Pro Bowl football player. Like the dude could have been a professional uh, track athlete. Like he could have done it all.
And that
And
brings up another one we were talking about: Deion Sanders.
maybe like that dude played in a football game and a playoff baseball game, and what was it, the same day or the same weekend, and was out there still stealing bases. He could actually hit the ball. He was ridiculously good in the outfield at running the ball down, tracking the ball down. Like Deion Sanders was another one that was great athlete at multiple sports, but nowhere on the list somehow. And when
Um,
you talk about impact, man, everybody wants to be like prime time. I don't care who you are. That's just one of the coolest cats in the world. The dude freaking was just the greatest. I mean, no, it wasn't the St. Louis Rams, but he was the greatest show on turf. I don't care what anybody says. Like,
yeah, I mean,
being
entertainer,
a little kid
right?
watching Deion Sanders was just awesome.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Again, spoiler: those two aren't on the list. I think they should be. All right, we're going to get a little. We're just going to start skipping some names here. So that was our top 10. But for the sake of time, there are some that we want to get talking about. So number 13, we're going ice hockey. Wayne Gretzky. I like that one. I mean, shout out to. I mean, greatest hockey player of all time, hands down.
Yep. No
Um,
questions asked on that one. That's an instant. Gretzky's the man when it comes to hockey. Did
yeah.
it forever and was the best basically till his last 2 years, maybe 3 years. He started to show his age a little bit, but for 20 years was the best player to ever step on ice.
Was the man, legend. I mean, again, you said the word hockey, everyone knew Wayne Gretzky. Um, well deserving. Number 14, baseball, Jackie Robinson. Now, I do agree with this one. I thought Jackie Robinson was one of the greatest of all time, and I think he did it at a time too, which was even harder um, for the amount of hate that he got and the amount of outside factors that he got to still go and do what he did. I mean, it's hard to do that. It's hard to do what he was doing without any of that, and he had to do it with all that. So, what's your thought? Yeah, what's your thoughts on that one?
And keep his composure still. And he definitely was a special person and a special athlete. Love him.
Um,
One of my
yeah,
favorite movies.
same.
Yeah.
Um, number 19, Simone Biles, gymnastics. That's. I mean, I feel like there's been a lot of great gymnasts. I mean, she's been. I guess you know what you know what she's done some. Literally, they're making up moves after her now. Like they're literally scoring stuff. I think there was one thing where they couldn't even score one of her moves because it was. I think the judges said it was so hard that since no one else could do it, it couldn't be scored. So she couldn't do it. I mean, that's
That's
goat.
pretty impressive. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. All right, it's gotten us to get to number 20 on the list. But I think if you're gonna say GOAT, I mean, I don't think anyone will disagree with you on this one. Tom Brady, number 20.
Yeah,
Tom
it's
Brady,
number 20.
number
Well,
20.
it's funny because they're talking about athletes, and the dude ain't much of one of those. But damn, is he a good quarterback?
The GOAT. I mean, literally. I mean, nickname. I mean, go to. I mean, he's known for. I mean, he's a goat. All right,
Best
21.
time, best leaders of all time.
Oh yeah, 100%. 21. We got to Michael Johnson. So there you go, another track and field. But right behind him, number 22, which I'm surprised this one has gone so far down the list, but I'm glad it's up there. Kobe Bryant, number 22. What's your thoughts on that one?
Well, I think that's fair. That's a pretty fair area for him. I think he's one of the top 3 to 5 basketball players of all time. But
See,
always, when it comes to just pure competitiveness and will to win, man, he might be in the top 5 for that. That's
you
one
know,
of the things you always have to love Kobe for. That dude wanted to win, and he wanted to go out there and compete at 120% every single night.
yeah. And what's crazy though is he is only the second basketball player to show up too. And
Yeah,
going backwards, Tom Brady was the first football player to show up on here so far. Besides, I guess Jim Thorpe.
yeah.
But that's crazy. Actually, now that I'm looking at not a lot of basketball players on here. Um, all right, 25, we got Jerry Rice. There's another football player. 27, Jim Brown. I think those are good ones. Um, and then 28, Kelly Slater for surfing. That's athletic sport. I mean, you got to be a super athlete to do that. That's pretty tough. I'm trying to get this one I don't know if I can agree with this one. Formula 1 racing, Michael Schumacher. I mean, how are you going to put him on the list, but not Bo Jackson and Deion? No, again, no disrespect, but
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I don't, not saying racing isn't a sport, not saying that it doesn't take great endurance to be able to, deal with all that pressure from going that fast for that long of a time, steering back and forth. I don't know if I can put a Formula One racer or NASCAR racer even to be top 50 greatest
and
athletes
not
of all.
just that, but here we'll wrap it up with this one and we'll give you what the number 51 was. But LeBron James comes in at 43.
Yeah, that's just absurd to me.
A Formula 1 racer better than LeBron James.
Yeah, I. That's one thing that makes me feel like it loses a little bit of validity in this list. How do you have LeBron that much farther down than Kobe and Jordan?
Well, the crazier part is Magic shows up before him too at 31. So he's actually only the fourth basketball player on there.
Yeah, that's just
ChatGPT, it's on something. I don't know what. All right. And number 50, Jesse Owens, track and field. So I think the shocking one, while we wrap up here, I think the most shocked one, I think you're right. I think LeBron James. I think that's the one I'm most shocked he was so low.
that was my biggest shocker for being too low on the list, and then it's a toss up between Bo and Prime Time. I mean, those dudes got to be on any list when you're talking about greatest athletes.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we are all out of time, but hey, everyone, we will drop the 50 greatest athletes on what ChatGPT in the description below. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the GOAT episode. Let us know who your GOATs are, who you think are the greatest athletes of all time. And let us know if you agree with some of the stuff that ChatGPT said. Thanks, everyone, for watching. You're all GOATs in our hearts. Keep the change.